Hi there, I'm Phil the Practical Gardener, back again. This particular topic is on beetroot. It surprises me that beetroot isn't a more commonly grown crop, as it is very productive and it's also very versatile. It can be processed and cooked in various different ways and served up either as roots, which can be pickled or eaten fresh in salads, and also baby beets, which can be treated in much the same way, and even the fresh young leaves can be picked and consumed as a salad green. I've grown beetroot for over 30 years now with minimal effort and very high success, basically simply through a bit of basic care and also through ensuring the fertility of my soil. However, the key to success for me is down to ensuring the fertility of the soil simply by returning copious amounts of organic matter to the soil. I have various tips on this under the sections 7, soil care, and also 11, weeding. Primarily this is through using the chop and drop method for crop remains and weeds. As you'll see, growing the beetroot themselves adds to the health of the soil. Here is the process that I follow. I usually grow a cover crop in the garden over winter, if I don't have a winter crop such as brassicas. I clear the ground and fork the soil deeply in mid-spring. I grow a single crop of beetroot. I find that this is enough. However, the plants grow quickly and there is no reason not to sow several crops over the spring and summer period. However, I have found that if I sow the seeds too early, the emerging plants are very prone to damage from excessive moisture and cold, and so I consequently only sow them in mid-spring, and I find that it's perfectly adequate. They grow very quickly. I grow several rows, about 30 centimetres or 12 inches apart. Personally, I grow about 14 metres, nearly 50 feet of beetroots. However, since my garden is quite large, I can afford the space. The main reason is that I feel that beetroot is probably the most productive crop that I grow, and I give a lot of the roots away to friends, which makes me very popular with them. Firstly, I fork the bed deeply. I don't add any organic matter or supplements, as I'm incorporating them constantly through my garden management. Note the cover crop that I removed and is still over here on the side will eventually be returned over the gardens themselves and incorporated in the soil and will become long-term humus. Since I have built the soil up to a very good structure, it is friable and easy to cultivate. Having raised beds also means that there is very little compaction through walking on the beds. After forking, I rake the bed over to break up any clods and ensure a fine surface tilth. The seeds, in speech marks, are quite large. I create a furrow about 2 centimetres, just under an inch deep, then sow them individually by hand about 12 centimetres or 5 inches apart in the row. I then cover the seeds with soil, tamp it down and add my protective hoops. Each seed is in fact a cluster of several true seeds, so that you are pretty well guaranteed to get at least one seedling from each one, usually a number. I also sow a couple of 6-pack punnets as an insurance from any gaps. After the seedlings emerge, I sometimes thin them out to a single strong plant. However, this year I left them and I've used the surplus plants as baby beets, as you can see. Watering is critical during the establishment phase, as the emerging seedlings are very vulnerable to drying out. It is important to keep the plants weed-free while they are small and vulnerable to competition. I hoe between the rows and between the plants with a cut-down hoe. As I have planted the seeds a specific distance apart, I can do this precisely without any risk to the seedlings. I then hand weed among the plants. Once it's just about enough, my plants grow vigorously and outcompete the weeds very quickly. We also fill in any misses from my punnets. I do the occasional tidying up of weeds by simply wiping the weeds away from my plants with my hands. My soil being so friable allows this. I can easily hoe between the rows to keep any weeds under control. In early to midsummer, I harvest the baby beets. I usually leave the strongest plants and remove the weakest ones over several sessions. Even this early harvest is very productive, as you can see. Of course, I leave the tops in between the rows under the chop and drop system, where it will add a mulch and suppress further weeds. As the soil gets dry over summer, I do hand water regularly, as often as every second day. Watch my tips under section 12 watering, which will show you how to ensure that your watering is effective. It is important not to let the plants get a check on growth if you wish to get the full size crop. I harvest the main crop in mid to late summer. after the roots have reached a spectacular size. They don't deteriorate through getting large, and I feel that I may as well maximise the size of my harvest. As I harvest them, I either cut or screw the tops off and return them to the soil, you guessed it, under the chop and drop system. I do the same with the taproot. That is why I said earlier that the beetroot itself improves the fertility of the soil. I pickle most of the roots for consuming through the year. Just a comment here, I don't bother to grow many crops of vegetables over the winter. I largely rely on stored produce. You can overwinter beetroot, however sometimes they develop woody rings that make them unpalatable. Also they may bolt, that is, go to seed, in late winter, so I don't bother. To pickle the roots I boil them for an hour and then simply wipe the skins off. These go into my compost bin to be returned to the soil in the fullness of time. As I mentioned before, I've been growing these beetroot for over 30 years without any problem and with extremely productive results. I do recommend the growth of them. So that's it for this tip. I hope you got some value out of it. You will note from the number 24.15 that I'm doing a number of tips on different vegetable crops. Under resources, you'll see the schedule which I update as the different tips become available. And also, if you press the subscribe button and press the like for this tip, that should help to ensure that you can see further tips as they become available. So thank you very much for watching this one through to the end.